The first thing I heard that morning was somebody yelling at the front gate. Not a normal argument either. Real panic. Sharp voices, radios cracking, a car horn somewhere down the hill, and one of the security guys saying, "Why is it not closing?" Like if he said it louder the gate would suddenly listen. I had been on the property maybe 12 minutes. I was there for temporary repair work. A friend of my uncle had put my name forward because they needed somebody who could handle electrical stuff, sensors, outdoor fixtures, little things nobody wanted to wait days for. I knew whose house it was before I showed up, obviously. Everybody did. Serena Carrington. Huge actress. Magazine covers, interviews, all that. But knowing somebody from screens and actually standing at their front entrance while cameras gathered outside were two very different things. The gate stood half open, frozen like it had changed its mind. Beyond it, down by the curve in the road, 2 SUVs and a couple of smaller cars were parked badly enough to block half the lane. Men with long lenses stood beside them like birds waiting for movement. One of them was already lifting a camera toward the house. A security guy named Marcus shoved a hand through his hair and looked at me. "You do sensors too, right?" "I can look. Look fast." That was my welcome. The control box was mounted beside the stone wall. I crouched, popped it open, and saw right away it wasn't dead, just glitching. Moisture had gotten into one of the connections, and the sensor loop kept reading obstruction even though the track was clear. Every few seconds the motor tried, stopped, and beeped like it was offended. Behind me, somebody said, "Can they see in from there?" A woman answered, flat and tired, "They can always see in from somewhere." I turned before I meant to. That was the first time I saw Serena in person. No red carpet glow. No makeup team. No smile prepared for cameras. She had dark glasses on, hair tied back loose, and a gray sweater that looked expensive in that way simple things do when they fit perfectly. She was beautiful, yeah, but that wasn't what hit me first. What hit me was how done she looked. Not dramatic, just exhausted in a way that seemed practiced. She noticed me looking, and for half a second I thought I'd made some huge mistake. Then Marcus said, "He's the new repair guy." She gave one quick nod. "Can he fix it?" "I'm fixing it," I said before I thought about how that sounded. Her mouth twitched like she almost smiled. "Good," she said, "because I'm not doing this all day." There was shouting down by the road again. Someone outside had called her name. Another voice guessed she was inside. I kept my eyes on the wiring, dried the contact points with a cloth from my bag, reseated the connector, reset the board, and tested the alignment. My hands were moving fast, but I could feel her standing there, not crowding me, just waiting. The gate gave a hard shudder, then rolled shut smooth and clean. Marcus let out a breath so loud it almost made me laugh. One of the other guards started talking into his radio right away. Outside, I heard irritation from the road, car doors, movement. The clean line of the closed gate changed the whole mood in about 2 seconds. "Again," Marcus said. I triggered it twice more. "Open. Close. No problem." "Nice," he muttered. When I stood up, Serena had taken off the sunglasses. Her eyes looked more tired than the rest of her. "What's your name?" she asked. "Jace. You just got here?" "Yeah." She looked toward the road, then back at me. "That figures." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just closed the control box and wiped my hands. One of the house staff came hurrying over to tell her someone from the kitchen wanted to know if she still planned to have lunch on the terrace. Serena gave a short laugh with no humor in it. "With an audience?" she said. "No." Then she looked at me again. Really looked this time. Not through me, not past me. At me. "There's a lighting issue in the west hallway," she said. "And the guest house door sticks when the air gets warm. Since you're apparently useful under pressure, stay." It wasn't a request. I followed one of the staff members up toward the house, carrying my bag, trying not to stare. The place was bigger than it looked from below, all stone and glass and narrow terraces cut into the hillside. Beautiful, but in a way that made privacy feel fragile. Too many windows, too many sight lines, too much of the world just beyond the walls. As I stepped inside, I caught sight of Serena in the reflection of one of those giant panes facing the city. She had her back to the room, one hand braced on a table, head lowered for just a second like the closed gate had bought her exactly one breath and no more. That was the moment she stopped feeling like a famous woman and started feeling like a real one. If the story is pulling you in, hit subscribe and drop a like. Takes 2 seconds. Now let me tell you what happened when I stayed. And somehow, on the first day, in less than an hour, I was already inside the part of her life nobody was supposed to see. By the time I finished in the west hallway, it was already clear my temporary job was turning into something else. The light problem was simple. Bad connection in one of the recessed fixtures. The guesthouse door was not simple. The frame had shifted just enough that it scraped the floor and stuck hard near the latch. I spent half the afternoon sanding, adjusting, checking the hinges, then doing it all over again because Serena came by once, pushed it open herself and said, "Better, but still annoying." There was something weirdly funny about the way she said things. Not rude exactly, just direct in a way most people weren't with me. So I fixed it again. When I tested it the second time, it opened smooth. She stood in the doorway with a mug in both hands and gave it a try. "All right," she said. "You win." I wasn't aware it was a contest. She looked at me for a second, then laughed, quick and real. "Everything here is a contest. With the house, with the schedule, with people outside the gate. Usually the house is the easiest one." That was the first time she stayed talking when she did not need anything. The guest house sat a little lower on the property, partly hidden by trees and stone walls. It was quieter there. Less staff traffic, less radio noise, less of that tense feeling from the main house. I was packing up my tools when she leaned one shoulder against the doorframe and looked out toward the drop of the hillside. "Do they always wait that long?" I asked. "Sometimes longer. For one photo? For one bad photo, ideally." She took a sip from the mug. "That's worth more." I looked at her then. "How do you live like that?" She let out a soft breath through her nose. "Badly some days. Efficiently on others." That should have been the end of it. She should have gone back uphill and I should have moved on to the next thing on my list. Instead she asked where I learned repair work, and I told her about doing jobs with my uncle since I was a kid, about wiring old rentals, fixing outdoor lights, replacing panels, whatever paid. She listened like it actually mattered. No fake interest. No drifting eyes. That surprised me more than the house did. The next morning I was back. Then the morning after that too. Nobody said I was officially staying on. But every day there was something else. Pool lighting that flickered. A storage room lock that jammed. An outdoor heater with a dead switch. Half of it probably could have waited, but somehow it never did. By the 4th day, even the kitchen staff knew my name. That was when I started noticing the looks. Not from everyone. Just little things. A woman from the main house pausing too long when she saw Serena talking to me by the back steps. One of the security guys asking, "You're here again?" With a tone that made it clear he already knew the answer. Nothing open. Just attention. Serena noticed it too. I could tell because she became more careful in busy areas. Shorter conversations. Less eye contact. More distance. Then, somehow, when we ended up alone, she relaxed even more than before, like she had been holding her breath for hours. One evening I was fixing a dimmer in a sitting room off the terrace when the sun had already dropped and the whole glass wall had turned into a mirror. Serena walked in, barefoot, carrying a plate she had clearly taken from the kitchen herself. "You're still here," she said. "You're still finding things for me to do. Fair." She set the plate down near me. "Toast, fruit, some kind of cheese. Eat something before you pass out and ruin my floor." I smiled. "That your way of being nice? It's the only version you're getting." She stayed while I worked. At some point we both looked toward the glass at the same time and saw what anybody outside might see if they had the angle. The room lit warm from inside, the two of us standing too close in reflection, her watching me turning toward her. She crossed the room fast and shut off the lamp near the window. Everything changed at once. My face, her face. The whole room dropped into a softer dark. "Sorry," I said, though I didn't know what I was apologizing for. "You didn't do anything." Her voice came out lower now. "It's just stupid how little it takes." I stepped away from the window. Could they really get something from up there? With the right lens? A lot. For a second, neither of us moved. The room felt smaller, quieter, too private. Then she picked up the plate again and said, almost lightly, "Come with me tomorrow." I frowned. Where? Into town. I need to pick up 2 things and my usual driver talks too much. I should have said no right away. Not because I didn't want to go, because I wanted to go too fast. Instead I said, "You trust me that much?" She looked at me with that tired, sharp little half smile. "No, I trust that you don't care enough to make my day harder." That should have bothered me, but it didn't. Felt honest. The drive into town the next afternoon was quiet at first. She wore a cap, plain sunglasses, nothing flashy, but there was still a tension inside the car the whole time, like we were carrying something fragile between us. Every time we stopped at a light, I caught myself checking mirrors, side streets, people on sidewalks. She noticed. "You're doing it too now," she said. "Doing what?" "Looking for who might be looking." I kept my eyes on the road. "Occupational hazard." "No," she said softly. "That one's mine." We parked in a covered spot behind a small design store off the main street. She was in and out in less than 10 minutes. No wandering, no browsing, no wasted motion. On the way back she loosened a little, one arm resting against the door, the city dropping behind us. "You know what I like about you?" she asked. I glanced at her. "This sounds dangerous." "You fix things, and you don't fill every silence because you're nervous." "I am nervous." "I know." She smiled at the windshield. "You just hide it well." When we reached the house, one of the staff saw us pull in together. Nothing was said. But from that point on, the air between Serena and me was different. Not open, not safe, not named. Just charged. Like something had already started. And both of us knew it, even if neither of us was ready to say it out loud. After that drive into town, things did not stay simple for long. It was still work on paper. Me showing up in the morning, carrying tools, getting through a list, leaving when I was supposed to. But under that, something had shifted. Serena would find reasons to pull me away from the busy parts of the house. A lamp in the reading room, a speaker on the lower terrace, boxes in the guest house storage closet that needed moving because she couldn't trust anybody else not to break something. None of it sounded strange by itself. Together, it was obvious. At least to me, maybe to other people too. One night, I was finishing up near the guest house kitchen when she came in wearing a dark sweater over loose sleep shorts. Hair down, no makeup, holding 2 glasses of water like she had forgotten what she meant to do with them. She set one beside me. "You're still here late," she said. "So are you." "This is my bad habit," she said. "What's yours?" I looked at the half-fixed cabinet hinge in front of me. "Staying when I should probably go." She smiled at that, but not like it was a joke. More like I had said the exact thing she had already been thinking. The quiet between us felt different now. Not awkward. Not safe either. I set the screwdriver down and turned toward her. She was close enough that I could see how tired she was around the eyes. But there was something else there too. Something warm, careful, and already decided. "You should go," she said softly. I nodded once. Probably. Neither of us moved. Then she stepped forward and put one hand flat against my chest, just resting it there for a second like she was checking if I was real. I looked down at her hand, then back at her. She did not say anything else. She did not need to. When I kissed her, she let out this small breath like she had been holding it in for a week. After that, everything got harder, and better, and worse. We did not turn into reckless people overnight. If anything, we became more careful. I came later sometimes, left from the lower path when I could, stayed away from the main rooms if staff were moving around. The guest house became our place without either of us calling it that. Late evenings, lights kept low, doors eased shut, voices dropped without thinking. Those hours felt nothing like the rest of her life. That was the dangerous part. In there, she was lighter, funny in a dry, sleepy way. She stole my hoodie one night because the room was cold and then acted like it had always belonged to her. Another time she sat on the kitchen counter eating strawberries from a bowl and reading some awful gossip item aloud in the flattest voice possible until I laughed so hard I had to lean against the sink. Then she handed me the phone. There was a blind item about her. Nothing direct. Just some vague line about a famous actress enjoying quiet company from a man far from her usual circle. That was all. No names. No proof. But both of us stared at it too long. Could be anybody, I said. Maybe. She locked the screen and set the phone down face first. That's what people say right before it gets worse. The close calls started stacking up after that. One evening we were in the sitting room off the terrace, barely speaking, just sitting there with the lamp behind us, when Serena went still and said, "Don't turn around yet." I did anyway, slowly. Far beyond the glass, down past the slope and the outer wall, a flash blinked once from the dark. Not huge, not constant, just one quick spark. She was on her feet immediately, crossing the room to pull the curtain. "That's exactly how it starts," she said. I stood there feeling stupid and angry at the same time. Can they even get anything from that distance? With enough patience? Yes. A few days later, one of the older house staff caught me coming up from the guest house too early in the morning. She looked from me to the lower path, then back to me. "You're getting a lot done down there." I kept my face blank. "Door swelled again overnight." She gave one short nod, but the question had already been asked. The worst moment came on a Sunday afternoon. Most of the house was quiet. Serena and I were in the guesthouse bedroom, windows cracked for air, talking in that lazy way people do when they have forgotten the outside world for an hour. I heard the first car too late. Tires on gravel. A door shutting. Then fast footsteps. Serena sat up straight. "No." Another second and we heard voices outside. One of her handlers back early with somebody else. She was already moving, grabbing my shirt off the chair and pushing it into my hands. Storage room. Now, I had just enough time to get into the narrow utility closet off the hallway before the front door opened. I stood there in the dark, barely breathing, one hand braced against shelves full of cleaning stuff and spare blankets, listening to voices move from room to room. "Thought you were resting," the handler said. "I was," Serena answered, and her voice sounded perfectly normal, which almost made it worse. A man I did not know said something about a schedule change. Shoes crossed the floor. A door opened somewhere close enough that I felt my whole body lock. I could hear the blood in my ears. If one more door opened, that was it. But it did not. A few minutes later, which felt like half a day, the footsteps moved away again. When Serena finally opened the closet door, she looked pale and furious at the same time. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then I stepped out and she put both hands over her face and laughed once, sharp and tired. "This is getting impossible." I wanted to tell her it was fine, that we had handled it, that nobody knew. But standing there in that cramped hallway, both of us still listening for sounds from the main house, I knew she was right. Whatever this was between us, it had stopped being something we were simply hiding. After the closet incident, something changed for real. Not in the obvious way. Serena still called me down to the guest house. I still came up the side path with my tool bag like nothing had happened. We still found those small pieces of private time that had started to feel normal in a way they never should have. But the ease was gone. Every sound mattered now. Car door outside. Staff voices carrying from the terrace. A phone buzzing at the wrong time. Even when Serena smiled at me, there was something tight under it, like part of her was always counting exits. 2 days after I hid in that closet, another item showed up online. This one was worse. Still no names, still written like gossip wrapped in fake mystery, but the details were close enough to make my stomach drop. A hillside property. A younger man seen more than once. Somebody useful around the house becoming more than that. Serena read it in silence, then locked her phone and placed it on the kitchen counter. "That means staff are talking?" I asked. "Or security, or delivery people, or somebody saw me look at you for half a second too long." She folded her arms and looked past me toward the window. "It doesn't take much." I leaned against the counter, trying not to show how hard my pulse was hitting. "Do you want me to stop coming?" Her face changed when I said that. Not shock. Not relief either. Just something tired and honest. "I want this not to turn ugly," she said. That line stayed with me. A few nights later, I was fixing a broken latch on a storage cabinet near the back corridor when Marcus found me. He was casual about it, too casual. "You planning to stay on here long?" he asked. I kept working. Didn't know I had a contract. He gave a short laugh. "Just asking." But he was not just asking. I knew it, and he knew I knew it. The next morning, I got a call from an old contact of my uncle's about a full-time maintenance job at a small coastal resort 2 hours away. Better pay, regular work, housing included for the first few months. The kind of offer I would have grabbed without thinking a month earlier. Instead, I stood outside the guest house with my phone in my hand and felt sick. Serena knew something was off the second she saw me. "What happened?" I told her. She listened without interrupting, one hand resting on the back of a chair, eyes steady on mine. When I finished, there was a long quiet that said more than anything else could have. "That's good," she said finally. I laughed once, but there was no humor in it. "Yeah, you should take it." I looked at her. "That's all. What do you want me to say, Jace?" I did not have a clean answer for that, which made it worse. Because I knew she was right. Because some part of me had still wanted her to make it harder. To say stay. To act like there was some version of this where the two of us could keep going without everything around it going bad. She stepped closer then, not all the way, just enough. "If you stay now," she said quietly, "this becomes something else. Not ours. There's—" I knew who she meant. The people outside gates. The people selling guesses. The people who could turn one private thing into a public mess and keep chewing on it for months. I looked down at the floor and nodded once. The final push came that same evening. A photographer got closer than usual to the lower road and caught a shot through the trees. Not a clear one. Not enough to confirm anything. But enough that security started moving faster. Staff started whispering more. And Serena's manager called twice in under an hour. That was it. No fight. No scene. Just the point where both of us understood the next mistake would not stay private. I left 2 days later. On my last night, I went to the guest house after most of the house had gone quiet. Serena was there already, sitting on the edge of the sofa with a low lamp on beside her. No music. No television. Just that stillness you get when there is nothing left to pretend about. She looked up when I came in. "What time are you leaving?" "Early." She nodded. I sat beside her, close enough that our shoulders touched. For a while neither of us said anything. There was not much left to say that would improve it. Finally she said, "I'm glad it was you." That hit me harder than anything dramatic could have. I turned toward her. "Yeah." She gave the smallest smile. "You never wanted anything from me except what was actually there." She was famous. I was just the guy who fixed her gate. Would you have walked away? Or stayed as long as I did? Tell me below. I wanted to answer in a way that sounded calm, adult, finished. Instead I just said the truth. It was real to me. Her eyes stayed on mine. "I know." When I left the room later, she did not walk me to the door. That would have made it feel too much like something we could keep holding on to. We both understood better than that by then. The next morning I drove down the hill just after sunrise. The gate opened clean this time. No cameras at the road. No crowd. No chaos. Just empty pavement and pale light over the city.